Hey guys, welcome to another video. My name is Maranatha Kure and I'm a business and corporate attorney alongside other kinds of law. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at season 4, episode 2 of Silicon Valley. This is the episode Terms of Service, where Dinesh becomes CEO for a couple of days. And between that time, he screws up the company by not transferring the terms of service from the original Pied Piper platform to the new one. I'm going to go through the repercussions their lawyer told them they could have and suggest other real-world consequences that they could have suffered. So let's get started. This is one of my favorite episodes in the whole series because you see Dinesh as CEO for a short time and the interaction between him and Guilfoyle is always hilarious.
I'm trying to save his ass, okay? I'm trying to save you. Just survey the users. And make sure you ask how old they are. Okay? And then that's it. That's it. No more.
Jared's face always kills me.
I mean, just give me 5 minutes. There he is.
Wait, is that our lawyer? I thought he was in jail.
Just an overview of ethics. When a lawyer is suspended generally, now I don't know how this works in California, but in Massachusetts and other states, many other states, when a lawyer is suspended, they're not allowed to practice law in any way. This means they can't give legal advice to anyone in any way. So technically, even though he's still technically a lawyer, he explains in later episodes that he's not an attorney, but he's a lawyer. An attorney can represent someone in court. A lawyer can't, right? Or, again, this is where it becomes, you have a law degree, technically you're a lawyer, but you're an attorney when you represent someone. But in many states, when you're suspended at all, you're not allowed to give any kind of legal advice to anyone. Now, there is someone I've heard about in Massachusetts where the person became a paralegal for a few months of their suspension. And the moment they were done, they turned back into being a full attorney or a full lawyer. But he's about to give them legal advice here. So in many states, this would have been a no-no.
Mr. Monahan, good luck with this whole work release situation, but I have more important things to do.
Mr. Chung-Tai, it appears that 33% of your users are under the age of 13. It's also apparent that you have no parental permission requirements in place. You're going to want to
Dude is clueless.
For this. Are you familiar with COPPA?
Who?
That's the Children's Online Privacy and Protection Act.
This act establishes strict guidelines to protect the privacy of younger children on the internet. You are in gross violation of this act.
Yeah, COPPA is a law that was passed in 1998. It's the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, like Jared correctly stated. And it basically requires that any website that either holds itself out as open to children or is targeted directly to children, any such website must have a privacy policy that basically explains the kind of personal information that they collect. So the name, social security numbers, date of birth, children's images, any kind of audio, video, any kind of thing like that. They must state that in the privacy policy and then ask for parental consent verifiably. And once they receive that consent, then they can service children. But if they don't, then it's a gross violation of the law. And the FTC, that's the Federal Trade Commission, can bring a bunch of enforcement actions against them. There are a lot of fines as well.
You know how kids can't have a YouTube or Facebook account until they're 13? It's because of this.
Yes, but our users are chatting with each other, Jared, not some old creep. No offense.
None taken? My shame will linger even after my voting rights are restored. Now, are there records of these chats on your server?
Yeah, we store everything. What's going on? How serious is this?
Each violation of COPPA carries a penalty of $16,000.
So we're fined $16,000.
In fact, as of 2019, the fine for a violation of COPPA is actually $42,530. So this was pretty low.
Oh no. I hope they take cash.
$16,000 per user.
Not only each user, each use.
Now, while this is technically true, the truth is that COPPA in real life has been a disappointment to many private children's privacy advocates. The reason is, so in its about 20 years of existence or more, right now it's 1992, so it's a long 1998, so it's a long time ago. But in all its time of existence, there's only been about 30 cases that have been brought by the FTC on COPPA. Of those, none have actually ever gotten to court. Now, many of these cases, you may know some of the companies: Sony, Yelp, Trustee, the security company, and Musical.ly, now TikTok. Now, here's the interesting thing. For all of them, the fines have been a lot lower than you'd expect, and the largest being YouTube. Now, the YouTube number looks like it's a lot, $170 million, but I'm going to explain soon why that turned out not to be as much as it looks like.
51,000 estimated underage users, times an average 25.6 chat sessions per user, times $16,000.
$21 billion?
I mean, how is that even fucking possible?
I mean, I knew Dinesh was going to fuck this all up, but honestly, this couldn't get any better.
Now, realistically, like I said before, no company has ever actually gotten to that point, and YouTube would have been the first. Now, YouTube's violation, for instance, again, they settled for $170 million. About 136 went to the FTC through the Treasury Department, and the rest of it went to the state of New York. Don't ask me why. But now, if you did the calculation for the violations that YouTube did, in fact, YouTube from the very beginning claimed that COPPA didn't cover them. So now every time if you are a creator on YouTube, you know that anytime you're pushing out a video, there's something you have to click on that says that you're not, your videos are not made for children. That didn't used to happen before. The children's part or the children's section of YouTube was never removed separately. And what happened was that children watched videos that were meant for adults, and more importantly, many ads that were put on the platform were actually geared towards children as well. And so the FTC brought this enforcement action. Now, YouTube, after negotiating with the FTC, came to an agreement that they'd pay $170 million, and this was seen like a big deal. But if you did the math, here's what you discovered. Now, if we take that maximum I mentioned in 2019, which was $42,530, and you divide it by the total number of, and you divide it by the 170 million, you just came down to about 3,900. This means that that's 3,900 and change, so about 4,000. This means that the FTC and YouTube allege that the maximum number of violations, or let's just even say the maximum number of children that use the platform during that period, meaning from the founding of YouTube until date, right, was just about 4,000 children. Now, this was 2019, so I'm not talking like 10 or more years ago when YouTube was still a baby. But YouTube was already big and largely used. There's no way just 4,000 kids used YouTube even in a month. Talk more of violations, meaning for each use for each child, right? And so YouTube actually got away with it. Secondly, YouTube didn't have to actually acknowledge that they made a mistake or that they were guilty of anything. They just had to pay the fine. So overall, it was 170 million, but YouTube got away with a lot. Now, there's something else I also observed when I was watching this. You'll remember that you hear a beep as this particular scene is going on, right?
This was your company before it was mine.
What are you talking about? Dinesh, I specifically reminded you to port over the terms of service from the platform.
Right, and I asked if you'd done it, and you said you had.
Okay.
Now, those beeps you hear, those bubbles you hear, are additional users signing on to the platform.
Okay. I checked the TOS box when we submitted to the App Store, but then I didn't end up doing it, all right? And then when we caught fire, the last thing I wanted to do was to bog our users down with legal bullshit, you know? I mean, nobody reads that stuff anyway.
Well, first of all, everyone reads the terms of service, and secondly, they would have given us legal cover from exactly this.
Every sound is $16,000.
Now, one thing I caught right there was what they should have done exactly then was to either stop people from signing in. They didn't have to shut down the whole service, but stop people from signing in. Secondly, it doesn't take too much technologically to port the terms of service from the old platform to the new one. All they needed to do was port both the terms of service and the privacy policy and then just make people accept it when they're signing in, right? If you can hear the dogs barking, sorry about that. But that's all they needed to do. Now, once they did that, the next thing you need to do if you're ever caught up in this kind of situation is to then go through all the cases, right? The children's information on your database and get rid of them now, so that you're not accused of getting rid of evidence. For instance, what you can do is if you're just going to segregate them in the first place and then let the FTC know, that's still better than the FTC coming after you later. Now, of course, each case differs, but in this specific case, they could have done that, gotten in front of it in that way, ported the terms of service and forced people to accept it, deleted or at the very least segregated the information of the children that were on their platforms, and removed them from the general database, and then stopped those kids from signing up in the first place, because they would know how old the children are based on their birth date set up when they signed up. And if you don't know who they are, you can write code that can kind of make guesses or force people to confirm their dates of birth.
All right, don't think about that. Just think about how to solve this massive, massive problem. Quickly.
But we can't stay online. We're just racking up more fines.
Well, technically, this is a corporation, so whatever they fine you, they'll really only be able to collect what the company's worth, which, at this point, is basically nothing.
That's right. I'm just the CEO. I'm not personally liable.
Although,
Although what?
well, when you lied to me about adding terms of service, it could be argued you violated your fiduciary duty to the company, rendering you personally liable.
Jared is technically correct, but it's kind of different. Because if the FTC brought the action against the company, then a shareholder in the company then has to bring a derivative action against the CEO in this case for basically a breach of fiduciary duty, right? And so he wouldn't necessarily be liable for all 21 billion fined by the FTC. He'll be liable for whatever damages that the courts deem when they're adjudicating between the corporation itself and the CEO. All right, so we're going to the scene where Belson is convinced to buy Pied Piper for selfish reasons.
Face how much he loved Piper Chat. What if he was using
Piper Chat.
Yes.
Fuck. He said the resolution was so vivid and superior to Ruli Chat.
Sadly, now we'll never know the identity of the person with whom he was definitely talking.
Unless...
Unless what?
Dinesh?
I was CEO for 11 days. And in that time, I violated the rights of 50,000 little girls, exposed them to sexual predators, and racked up fines the size of a small nation's GDP.
He loved being CEO too.
Well, this is he. What?
It's Kevin Peltz. It's Kevin fucking Peltz.
Although what?
Well, I'm sorry to play the Cassandra again, but Dinesh can't sell Gavin the company.
Why not?
Why the fuck not?
It's due diligence. Gavin doesn't trust anyone. When I worked for him, he tried to microchip me. Before he finalized any acquisition, his legal team would uncover our malfeasance. It's never...
Most VCs do this, and most companies do this in a merger acquisition. So even after they make the offer and the offer is accepted, the company that's buying the other company basically brings its engineers, its finance people, and they make them go through the books and the technology of the other side to make sure that any representations that were made during negotiations are true. So this means they come through everything, the database, the technology base, the code base, their papers, so usually as lawyers we're advised that when you're doing a merger or acquisition, you make sure that everything is in order. So the minutes of the board meetings are in order. Every single minute detail is okay. So that when these companies come and they go through, when the buyer comes and goes through your papers, everything is in order and you can go through. There are many offers. If you watch Shark Tank, there are many offers that fall through during due diligence because it turns out that certain things that the buyer thought was true or accurate turns out not to be so true.
Chat?
but without the suck-ass parts, end quote. Or the one you did with Emily Chang, where you told her how you took the best parts of HuliChat and made them less crappy. I was about to throw you a massive acquisition deal. And then I realized you'd already publicly admitted to stealing my IP.
Now, this is not technically true. So, when he says IP, he's talking about intellectual property. And in intellectual property law, there's three aspects. There is copyright law, there is trademark law, and there's patent law. So he has to be talking about one of these three. Now, the first that comes to my mind is copyright law, but the problem he's going to face is that in copyright law, you cannot really copy the look and feel of anything. You can only copy, so you cannot copyright the look and feel of something. You can only copyright basically the code base underneath it, right? You can only copyright the code base underneath it. Now, if you're going to patent, that's a different thing, because with patenting, you're patenting the technology itself. Now, you could technically patent, but at the same time, when you're patenting, you cannot patent, you can not patent look and feel. And the closest thing that comes to patenting look and feel will be trademark, right? If you have certain kinds of designs that go with your company, you could technically trademark, that kind of the whole thing together. Now, the problem Gavin Belson is going to face is he has to prove one or two things. If it's copyright, that they copied his code, which they didn't. That's the first thing. If it's the look and feel, that's not really what he came about, right? Because this guy says he copied HuliChat, but without the bad parts. Now, if I'm thinking about this just from what I heard, then what he's referring to is he copied the functionality, basically, of HuliChat. And that's allowed, as long as you're not copying the code, the look and feel, then that's allowed. You cannot copyright an idea. You can't even patent an idea. You can only patent technology, meaning you actually build something, then you can patent it, because you need to describe in your patent application the exact kind of technology and what makes it novel or new to get a patent on it. And the same thing, you cannot copyright an idea. You can only copyright the thing itself, what has been authored or created, what is original. You can patent that. And trademark, you can trademark a look and feel, but again, that's not what he's talking about, right? He's talking about the idea itself. So in reality, this would be a difficult thing for him to win.
I hope you have a good lawyer.
He works at the car wash down the street.
What?
Look, Gavin, you do not want to do this. I can't explain exactly why.
Shut up. This is not a negotiation. If you fight me, I will win, and I will fuck you in the tech business forever. No one will hire you. I'm taking PiperChat. By 8 a.m. tomorrow, you will hand over to Huli all your data and systems. All your users will be converted to HuliChat users. It will be like PiperChat never existed. And what you get out of it is the chance to walk away and try and get another job in this town. You have 5 seconds to decide. 5, 4.
Okay.
So we're in agreement.
Now, this scene actually does two things, even legally, right? First of all, just morally, it takes away the moral quandary of Dinesh selling this guy a company that's basically going to bankrupt his own company. But then it also does another thing legally. Now, during a negotiation, you're not allowed to make representations that are false to the other party. If a party relies on those representations when they're making a purchase, then you're still legally liable if there's something that happens down the road, right? Even though the courts still say if you're an experienced party, then you have the duty of due diligence. In this case, he didn't meet that duty. He just wanted to buy PiperChat and didn't care, right? So no due diligence. And secondly, Dinesh tried to tell him you don't want to do this. He couldn't tell him why, because if he decides not to do it, then given that information to Gavin Belson without an NDA signed, opens his own company to scrutiny and liability. But he didn't even need to do that because Gavin Belson was too much in a hurry to take PiperChat and basically took the trouble away from PiperChat himself.
Evan, I'm sorry. I need to talk to you about this PiperChat acquisition. I put together a panel of the most active users you ported over from PiperChat. Bear in mind, this group is representative in terms of gender, race, and most importantly, age.
Now, who else thinks changing to a HuliChat login is hella lame? Madison, Allison, Jennifer, Stephanie, Quinn, Ingrid, Kaylee, Ava, Sarah, Janelle, Carl. Now, Carl, you said the new sign-in page made you nervous. Did anyone else feel nervous?
So the lesson in this video, in this episode, really is simply, when you're buying a company, make sure you do your due diligence. That's it. Now, I was happy Dinesh got to be CEO for a while. That was interesting to watch. And this whole series is very interesting and has a lot of lessons, both legally and for startups. So if you're interested in this, make sure you leave a like and let me know in the comment section if you want more of these videos, and I'll make them down the road. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.